Hi guys, welcome to this week's AMA. So just a brief thought. When we started building out Zenko, we were fixing real world problems. So this was about how do we utilize a good in the world to reduce the cost of engagement for big brands and sports clubs. Really trying to focus on solving this problem of time, attention, and data, right? How do we acquire that? What's interesting is how the market's changing. And conversations are already shifting from how do we now start to use activities like movement to validate other things like proof of humanity, proof of belonging. As AI starts to come in more and more to our daily lives, when brands are engaging through all sorts of things, right? So content on social media, content in webinars, how often are those things going to be dominated in the future by AIs and bots, that are doing the research, not humans? So how you create that human connection and how you create belonging is going to be incredibly important. So I just wanted to say that. Let's jump into the AMA and we'll talk a little bit more about this in detail. Ashley, before we jump into the AMA with Mark, let's give you a very, very quick overview of how we position Zenko and our offer to our brand customers.
Creative-led, IP-powered, and impact-anchored. We specialize in brand-to-demand growth campaigns that do more than convert. They connect, they matter, and they scale. What if you could reduce your cost per lead, increase engagement, build deeper custom connections, and do real-world good, all from a single campaign at a lower cost?
That's why we are presenting a new approach to deliver high-growth, engaging campaigns.
But what sets us apart is our engine, a modular stack of proprietary tools designed to convert attention into opportunity. Your audiences can learn, move, and play, engaging in ways that are fun, rewarding, and purposeful. Every interaction becomes a chance to educate, qualify, or inspire action, and we turn action and attention into a delivered and verified real-world good. Because time is valuable, and we believe it should be rewarded with more than just another ad or piece of content.
Okay, welcome everybody. So our next AMA, my name is Jason. I am the CEO and founder of Zenko Protocol, and I'm very, very pleased to be joined by Mark on this AMA.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I'm Mark. I'm looking after Web3 strategy for Zenko and really happy to be here and answer some questions.
It's fair to say that Mark is new, but not new to our project, right? So Mark's been on the other side of the fence, asking me very awkward questions about who we are, what we do, what our go-to-market is, grilling us on our tokenomics. So it's a real pleasure to actually officially have you in the team and helping on this side, Mark, can I just say?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's been a bit of a journey. So it's good to see token launch doing really well. And big plans for the coming months.
Cool. So we've got a lot to share today. So what we're going to do is we've gone through some amazing questions from the community. So we had over 200 questions, which is fantastic. We've categorized some of those into this. Obviously, quite a lot. I guess there's quite a few duplicate ones. So we're going to cover the really big topics at the beginning, which will actually tick off quite a lot of those answers, and then we're going to pull out some in the second part. Very importantly, we are giving away $350. We are not giving away $350 in Zenko tokens because we don't want people to go and sell them if they've answered questions for money. So we're actually going to send you a hard cash USDT. So what we'd like is for people to take that USDT and of course go and buy the Zenko token, which would be nice. But what we don't want to do is cause any selling pressure where we don't need it. So we are not distributing our token. Our token is only available for purchase. So we're going to cover kind of recappy stuff and the top questions, and then we'll kind of go through them one at a time. We've got $350 for the top 5 questions, but you have to have been on the stream. You have to have commented and shared before we announce the winners. So do not come back over the weekend and retweet it and then say, oh, where's my money, right? Because this is a community incentive. So we want to make sure it's our community that's getting the value, not just people that are trying to farm cash. And by the way, we don't blame you. So if you're here for that, welcome. But hopefully you learn a little bit about us on the way. So the big news for us to start with is that we launched a week ago. So we are now live on Solana, and we are just gearing up to launch liquidity onto ApeChain. Solana was really the priority for us to begin with because that's where there's trading volume. And although our primary token user is going to be the user of the app, which we'll explain in a second, it was important for us to have a tradable token on a vibrant, busy chain that has a lot of trading volume. But our applications are built on ApeChain. So it's very important that we also have a tradable token on ApeChain. So you can buy tokens on ApeChain. You can also buy some amazing NFTs, but it's not necessarily people's go-to place to go trade tokens. But we will be on both, and that's very important for us going forward. Just realised I've blurred out a little bit. Am I blurry on you, Mark?
It's gone a bit blurry.
Hasn't it? Like,
That's
maybe... I tell you what it is. I think I bought a very new, clever AI Logitech webcam, and it looks at me and says, "You're a bit old. I'll blur it out." So in the old days, they used to smear some Vaseline on the screen. In the very old days, to kind of blur stuff out. I think it's maybe just trying to anti-de-age me at the moment.
Because it looks much better now.
I know. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I just need to try and sit really, really still.
It's impossible.
Yeah. So yeah, it's impossible, but I'm like, impossible for me. So some quick stats, because I pulled some this morning. So we launched on the 3rd of June. So we're just over a week. We have generated over $2.5 million in trading volume from over 50,000 trades, which I think is, considering we're a stealth launch, considering we really haven't started the big marketing pushes yet, which hopefully should start this weekend, I think we're super proud of how the launch has gone. We've also had some really great price action. So we launched at 1 cent, and we seem to have really established a floor, I'd say around 4. It kind of goes up when there's buys and it comes down a bit when there's sells, but there's quite a lot of active trading between that kind of 4 to 5 cents. So I don't want to speak too soon because that'd be a bit dangerous, but I kind of feel like we've established a really solid base at around 4 cents. And that gives us an opportunity then to kick on. One point, we're on a DEX, so this can be a little bit confusing until all the data falls through. When people look, they will see our fully diluted value, so our FDV. I'm not even going to call what that is up today, right? We're a utility token. We're not a meme coin, right? So that means we have a very, very long drip out of our tokens as we scale customers, and it's all available in our white paper. So it might be scary looking at our FTV and saying, "Oh wow, we're at 52 million." Yes, we are. If every single token was in issuance, that isn't true. Actually, our market cap is less than 1.5 million. So we really are establishing a solid price at a real kind of macro cap level. So if anybody's kind of watching this thinking, "Oh, maybe we've missed the boat because we missed that early pump," it's not at all. Don't measure us against a meme coin at 50 million market cap. We're not. Our actual market cap is sub $1.5 million, and we are targeting somewhere between a 300 and 500 million FTV by October. That's our internal targets, and we're going to share that with you on our journey as we go. So we launched. We're very happy. We are trading. We're very happy with the trading volume, and we're super happy with the value, the price floor that's being established. Now it's our job to kind of kick that on. And he's not going to talk now because I said let me just do the intro. But huge thanks to Mark and the rest of the team. Particularly big thanks to the team at Swissborg and BorgPad. Even though it didn't work out for us launching on BorgPad, we did take every piece of advice they gave us very seriously. They did help us really plan the execution. So, I think we've thankfully had some really good, honest advisors that want projects to do well in the space. And I think that's kind of what's built up to our launch. So like I said, it's a shame we didn't launch on BorgPad because their terms didn't really meet what we needed to do because of some things in the background. But it was not because of any falling out or the fact that any love's lost or we don't like it, right? We absolutely love BorgPad. We love Swissborg. We hope we have a really positive interactions going forward. And a personally big thank you to Mark, and all the team over there for the great advice they gave us. So hopefully some of them got in early and they're sat on 4 times gains. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they're sat looking now, and and we're going to see how that comes out to wash. Right. So preamble, let's talk a little bit about us. Right. So if you're new here, which you might be, and you might just be here because you want to win $150, so that's a good question. But let's just tell you a bit about who we are. So we are not just another token. We are not a meme coin. We essentially are a real world utility protocol that allows people to earn tokens by taking real action. And when I say real action, I mean walking, watching, learning, playing. That then helps them turn that value they've earned into a provable on-chain impact, whether that is a carbon offset, whether that's planting trees, whether that's meals for children, whether it's biodiversity, whether it's plastic out of the oceans, whatever people care about. So brands fund the system. They fund it because they want to get a lower cost of engagement and a lower cost per lead. So brands pump money into the system through buying tokens. Their audiences engage with our applications and earn tokens, and then they select a cause that they care about, and that's our flywheel. The brand wins because they get a lower cost of engagement. The users win because they get a nice return or value for their time, attention, and energy. And the planet gets a helping hand out of a reduction in a cost for marketing, which is not new money and is not a tax. So it really generates this win-win-win situation. And then the token holders kind of sit in the background and can just be part of this flywheel that's growing. A majority of our money, like I said, our primary token user is not a holder sat on Solana that's going to buy the token because they know, like big utility projects like XRP, if you got in there early, going into the banking system, you know this project has real world use. And as we, of course, will go into a dip and into the bear market, it's important to recognize that we will still have constant buy pressure on our token because the money isn't coming from trading fees. The money isn't coming from community projects, or it isn't coming from KOLs pumping our token, hoping people will buy, because all of that stuff at some point will calm down and will disappear, as it always does in the cycles. So we are real world customers, and we're really proud about that. So please, if you have the time and inclination, take a look at the white paper. We've got pilots in there, we've got results in there, so it's really exciting. So in terms of our momentum, sorry, Mark, I'm constant on keep talking, and I'm not sure if you had a question there.
No. What I was going to say is to anyone listening, I think that's such an important point, is that there's so much crypto projects right now that aren't actually real businesses. And if it wasn't for crypto, they wouldn't function. They don't have a revenue model. They don't have a business plan. They don't have a vision for long term. The token is their product. There is everything to do with them. If the token goes to zero, the business disappears. Zenko's flipping that and saying, well, actually, we're a real business. We've got real revenue. And actually, the token is a byproduct of that. And it actually becomes the utility of the whole ecosystem. But underlying is a really solid business model. And I think that's what separates Zenko from 99.999% of projects.
And I'm actually quite proud. I mean, I've been in crypto since early 2017 as a, I want to say trader. I'd probably say gambler's more like my attitude. But the blockchain actually fixed a problem we had, which was how do we generate a universal currency that can operate in any country? And how do we make it transparent and on-chain? Because they believe anywhere between 40 to 60% of ESG products are greenwashing. And the blockchain fixes that, right? And there's a reason why charities haven't rushed to deploy blockchain, is because they don't want to be open book. So the blockchain and the token actually fixes what is the biggest problem in a system like this, which is how do you create money that can be transported globally? And how do you open your books so brands can see where that fund has gone? So our app roadmap is fully detailed in the white paper, but essentially our first application was a learn to earn, which is consume content for a reward. Most of our pilots were based around that, and we were getting on average a 35% reduction in cost per lead, which was just incredible. So we're selling money to brands. our big summer launch, when I say summer launch, I'm talking about in about 2 weeks' time, is our Move to Earn, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Very importantly, we also have Shop to Earn coming soon, which should be live in August. And that's about a Zenko cashback across 3,000 web stores, which enables people to earn a good back from their online shopping. And they can delegate that to things like their local community or their kids' school or something like that. We're also launching, and please don't think we've gone nuts on this one, we're also launching Art for Good, which essentially is an NFT engine in September. Now, I really want to position this because this is a bit where Mark's going to go, oh my God, not the NFT bandwagon, right? So this is not a crypto NFT platform, but we're utilizing an NFT technology. So for example, schools need to raise $6 per pupil per year to go carbon zero. And they have to do that by 2030 across Europe. US, it's different. Canada, actually, it's the same. So the easiest way for them to raise their money is to actually have a digital bake sale. So the kids create the content, the kids load it into something, the parents buy the something for $1, $2, or gift it to their grandparents or something. So we're taking an NFT engine approach to creating a digital store for good. So yes, of course, it will be, it will be art for good, but we're not going after Blur or OpenSea, for example. It's very specifically for our non-Web3, non-crypto customers, for them to easily launch a digital collection as a part of a fundraising activity. And this will include sports, but our key market for this is schools, because we've got initially 50 schools to get started. We're going to get them into Move to Earn, but they need something they can sell, right? And they're not selling time and attention. So the art one is actually something that's come from schools, and we're investigating whether we can do class photography through an NFT engine. So instead of collecting pictures of the kids that just lie around and get wasted, they actually are stored in a mutable wallet as an NFT, and the schools sell the photos as NFTs. That came from the principal of one of our school customers that said, could you do that? And I was like, actually, I think it's a brilliant idea, because there's so much paper wastage in creating those proofs. So that's very definitely on the horizon. That's in development, and we expect that to be around September. Before I talk to you about one that I've not even told Mark about this, but he's really going to like it. Let me just quickly talk about Move to Earn, and I will try and keep this short because we're going to put a lot more content about this. So starting in July, kicking off on July the 7th, we're doing our single biggest campaign that we've ever done, and we've sponsored stuff that's been on TV. Honestly, go look at the white paper, right? So our biggest campaign is called Causeonauts Mission to the Moon. This is a global challenge where users will put themselves into teams with their friends, and they'll log walking, swimming, bike riding, rowing, we've added, and they will earn real rewards to put to real impact, and it'll be powered by our token. So this is a mission, and it's broken down into 5 little stages, 5 2-week stages. People are in teams competing to earn tokens, and we've got some really big brands. We've got some of the world's biggest marketing agencies going to take part and try and bring their customers on board. We've got at least 5 top professional sports clubs are going to add their foundation as causes and get their fans competing for their cause. We've probably got 15 different Web3 communities now that are joining. And I think over the next 2 to 3 weeks, that's going to accelerate. So this is a showcase of our Move to Earn app that does 2 things for us. One is it builds our pipeline, because every brand or sports club that joins for free, we're basically getting them into the habit of figuring out the benefit of getting their community moving. But the other side to this is that it's going to help us showcase an application across the whole of Web3. So if people are on it, please get your, if you're in a community, get your community to sign up. It's completely for free. And what we're doing is we're creating global fan leagues. So you may be, for example, one of the teams that we know are already starting, of course they are because they're a strategic partner of ours, is Yuga. So we will have a Bored Ape Club. We'll have a a mutant ape club. We'll have an ApeChain club, right? So, and we were talking last night about actually, do we do that UK? So do we do Apes UK versus Apes US versus, you know, because what we're going to have is we'll have our individual team. So Mark and I are in the UK Chippendales Zenko team, where we're, you know, we'll have our little team and we're G'ing each other along. And I'm like, no, come on, Mark, you need to get out there and, you know, do 30 minutes today to bring our numbers up, and we all have to work together. So we'll have our own little private team that will compete, but we'll also be part of a global team. So we'll have a global leaderboard of Web3 communities all competing. And they're competing basically to be healthy, to be active, to move, to do kilometers, you know, to do strokes. So we just want this to be a really fun summer activity, earn tokens, support causes, and see the product. So we're calling that Causeonauts. There's a nice little website called the Causeonauts for it. It's got its own brand, but essentially it's the launch of our Zenko Move application. We're super excited. So you need to decide, Mark, if you're in my team or you're having your own team, because my team's going to kick ass. Just
yeah, well, I'll definitely encourage everybody to get moving in the sun. And I think, again, what Zenko's doing is it's kind of merging the Web 2, Web 3 world, but without having to go through all the difficulty onboarding and, you know, just taking part in something fun without necessarily worrying about learning all about crypto and investing in crypto and stuff like that. It makes it really easy to onboard people. And these community activations are huge. One, for brand exposure, but also the Web3 brands that actually take part get exposed to a massive global audience. So for me, it's a win-win for everybody.
I love it. And it's perfect. So we've timed it in line with, so Yuga have just released something called the Glyph wallet, which is not, it's not mega important. People go and figure that out. But from our point of view, what it means is that we can seamlessly create a non-custodial wallet for somebody using either their email address or their social account. So somebody, like say you're a fan of a Premier League football club and you're like, oh yeah, no, I'll take part, if that makes sense. They literally give us their email address, say who they're a fan of, like Everton Football Club or Aston Villa Football Club. You know, so they say, oh yeah, I'm doing that and I'm going to get my mates. I've got my own little mate. They make their team. But in that process, they've actually generated a free wallet. So they're going to get POAPs, they're going to get NFTs, they're going to get tokens that pull through into their wallet, but they're never going to realize they've actually made a Web3 wallet. For them, it's just their account, basically. So
yeah, exactly.
It's, you know, this is our ambition, is to bridge Web 2 to Web 3, where they don't even know. They don't know, and they don't care, to be frank. Nobody cares what servers Facebook ran on when they started, right? So really conscious that I don't go off on a ramble, because people will just get to my questions and tell me if we won the money. But I did want to tell Mark about something, because this is totally new, and I've saved it to now because I wanted to see actually what your natural reaction was, whether you think this is nuts or it's a good idea. So on our journey of finding partners, we're going to probably do a press release this weekend. So this is total alpha. Nobody knows all about this. So we were introduced to a really amazing group called Flashy Finance. They're building a brilliant infrastructure around wallets, onboarding, bridges, staking, but it's very consumer focused. And they're actually creating an ecosystem of tools. So they're building out quite a few different applications that will all sit under their brand, if that makes sense. They actually want their differentiator to be that part of all of their fees, part of all their transactions goes to good. So we're going to embed Zenko into every single one of their applications, the DeFi application, all the way down through all their sub applications. They've not, I'm not sure actually when they go big public launch, probably 2 months till they start pushing, but it looks amazing. They're literally called, it's flashy.finance. So we're gonna do some announcements soon. So that's interesting, but it's probably not as exciting as having Google as a customer or MasterCard as a customer, right? It's a Web3 integration. But the thing that we talked about this week was, if you imagine our tokenomics, okay, so we've got 100% of our fees stay within the ecosystem. We are buying back tokens which can be burnt or reused, but they're owned by the community, and we're making eco investments. And the DAO, once that's set up, based when we hit our token issuance, once the DAO is set up, token holders will be able to vote on how to edit those fees. Most of our token usage is actually about velocity, right? So let's say I'm the marketing director of Google, and I say, right, I want to go and do a big lead gen campaign around this new product. And in order to do that, I'm going to buy $50,000 of tokens, if that makes sense. So Mark, you're a prospect for Google. You've gone on a webinar, you've downloaded the white paper, and you've earned 100 tokens. What you care about is feeding children in food poverty, for example. So those 100 tokens will feed 100 children. Let's keep my math simple, okay? So that's how it works today, if that makes sense. Brand buys the tokens, brand rewards Mark for time and attention, Mark picks a cause. What we're going to build out inside our application, and this probably will be completed by October, I think, is the ability to stop that process in the middle and say, okay, Mark, you've just earned your 100 tokens. You can go feed 100 kids right now. Or you can stake those 100 tokens and you can feed 5 kids a month forever. So a bit like, you know, give the man a fish versus give him a fishing rod and fish, right? Using DeFi protocols, which we know are going to be huge over the next 4 to 5 years, to interrupt the velocity of our buys and sells of our tokens and saying, what if you didn't sell, Mark? What if you staked it? And what if that staking earned enough liquidity to feed 5 kids a month forever? So you can do 100 now or 5 a month forever. And you keep getting that credit for that 5 a month. And you still always own those staked tokens, but you're putting them to work to do more good rather than execute them. That's the new app, which is staking for good.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, to be fair. And I think the benefit of it is, as well as you think about anyone that's got kids or anyone that's involved in any type of charity, it is an ongoing thing. There's never enough. So you might do one big thing, but you know next month they're going to need money again, or they're going to need funding for a cause, or, you know, food banks need donations every single day, whatever it may be. So that kind of drip feed of, we're going to support you over the next 5 years, as opposed to just, I'm going to support you today and then never speak about it again, is actually more beneficial. And also what it allows the cause to do is they can then forecast as well and say, well, we know we've got funding for the next year because they've staked this, you know, and they can then plan. Because one of the big challenges for charities is, it's great. It's like everybody always wants to donate a toy at Christmas for kids. But actually what happens is charities get overwhelmed and they get too much. And actually, if people just said, I'm not going to do it at Christmas, but maybe at Easter I'm going to do something, or maybe in the summer I'm going to donate some, you know, pack lunches for kids that are out of school and stuff like that, it actually spreads the help over a longer period of time. And that's more beneficial to charities than just a one hit and that's you done.
And I'm like, I think it's the right thing to do. I think we've found the right partner that can make it work inside our wallet. I also think from a token holder point of view, is rocket fuel, because actually we've got brands buying the tokens and nobody's selling the tokens because they're being staked. So it really then interrupts the flywheel dramatically to stop any selling from the brand. Well, it throttles the selling down to, you know, a 5% emission each month rather than 100% that goes straight through. So 100% we're going to do it. It makes absolute sense. We found the right partner. We're just building that literally into the roadmap. So this will be part of all of the app ecosystem, which is just stake for good. And if we can, you know what, if we can build that out and allow people to stake other tokens to do a good, that might be a good thing too. And say, you know what, come and stake ETH, and 1% of your reward goes to a cause, and the rest you keep. There might be a different kind of ethical staker that would like to share the reward in that way. I don't know, but our focus is for use in our application.
I also think from Flashy Finance, it's an amazing move because for their fees is basically their lifeblood of their ecosystem. So it's a win-win again, because then they're saying, well, the more fees we've got, the more we can run Zenko through it. But then also it creates that business mentality that I think we, like, crypto's craving, is like, you've got to run like a proper business. And so many crypto projects don't think of the other side of business, because all they're caring about is price go up or price go down. So I think that's a smart move from them, and a great marketing tool as well.
I think, yeah, and I think it's great. But I think there's lots of those kind of partners in the Web3 space that want to add a bit of a do-good layer, if that makes sense. It's like, let's just do a little bit of good, because it just gives us an edge, and it gives people a reason to differentiate in a market that's very noisy and it's hard to differentiate. So we're quite excited about that. The other thing I think that's really important as well, and this is the last thing I'll say, then we'll come on to questions. Although I do have one nuts thing to talk about right at the end, but I'll save that right to the end, because it's kind of blew my mind. So I might have to set up a different Telegram for people just to talk about it, because it's wrapping my head around Web 4, but I'll talk to you about that at the end. Token. So that's apps roadmap we just talked about. The other one really is like token roadmap. So if people are in the community, what you'll know is that we self-launched, we self-funded, which has one consequence, but one big opportunity. So people will look at the DEX volume, look at the DEX and say, oh, the liquidity is quite low, and think that might be a bad thing. That's actually a good thing, because what we haven't done is gone on a bonding curve and got people very cheaply to chuck money into liquidity that are then going to look to sell when the price shifts. Everything we've done is about reducing the sell pressure to give ourselves a chance to really grow steadily to hit our market cap targets. So there's nobody sat on a 33% discount with a chunk of tokens that are suddenly going to flush in the market. That doesn't exist. So what's important is that we make very, very careful steps with listing our token. So having been in the market, having helped on some projects, and this being my baby that I've literally, I've spent the last 3 years building, and I want to spend the next 25 years of my life growing, it's really important that we don't mess up the next 6 months. And one of the single biggest points of failure is people rushing onto a centralized exchange and not really understanding how they work, not understanding how the market makers work, and not understanding the term sheets that they're writing up to. Because some amazing exchange says, oh, actually, it doesn't take too much money. Give us a load of tokens. We'll list you. Because what they tell you is that your baby is beautiful, Mark. Let me tell you. They say, oh, my God, we love it. We've read your white paper. Oh, we totally agree with your mission. And they literally love bomb you like crazy. I cannot tell you, like, honestly, my Telegram is nuts. Since we went on Solana, since we've had good volume, I must have 80 different DMs from exchanges saying, oh my God, you're the best thing since sliced bread, right? In reality, it can be quite different, and they can behave quite differently. And if we give them tokens, they're going to sell them. If we use a market maker in a way that, again, provide the markets for liquidity, they'll hedge short, because their job isn't to help us, it's to not lose money. So it's some centralized exchanges might not behave very well. So all I'm saying is, in the Telegram group and for holders, everybody will ask, when's the next centralized exchange? When's the next centralized exchange? And I tell you, these are people that have been around quite a while, and they date back to a listing on Binance means price goes up a lot. What I want to say to everybody is that isn't the case today. A listing on Binance, and I'm not picking on Binance, by the way. That just used to be the thing that people say, when Binance, right? A listing on an exchange does not mean the token suddenly rockets. And in a lot of cases, actually, the price goes down. And sometimes people are wondering, why has the price gone down? We've just listed. And it's because of those things that I just described. So we are actively talking to centralized exchanges. We have very good offers on the table from the 3 to 4 that we're picking. We're literally just trying to plan our route out. Our target is tier 1 by October. So we've started talking to a couple of the big tier 1s. we are nowhere close to being right for them yet. We don't have the right hold account. We don't have the right liquidity. We don't have the right trading volume. But what we don't want to do is go out on a raft of not very good ones that harm us long term. We have our 3 target exchanges for October that everybody is working towards. And this is about how do we get there in October, not how do we get listed on 20 exchanges so we can just say, oh, look, all these exchanges we're on. Back to what Mark said, our job isn't to pump our trading volume to earn fees. Our job is to grow steadily our economy, our ecosystem. We've got very big brands that are keeping an eye on what's happening. So we've got a duty of responsibility for their fans, their customers, to not do anything that's going to cause an issue amongst our tokens. Now, of course, anything can happen, hacks happen, but please know, centralized exchanges are very important to us. We are talking about them. We will not pre-announce a centralized exchange. So I'm not even going to tell you who we're talking to. Just know that we're talking. And the minute an agreement is signed and a date is set, we will announce it. We're not going to pre-announce because these things can change. You know, I've even seen people pre-announce and then terms change and you kind of feel like you've got to go through with it because you've already pre-announced it. So we do have a token roadmap. We have a listing roadmap. It will never, ever be published. People will know we're listing when we announce a date and the exchange. But we recognize it's important. Of course it is. It's important for us to grow. But what's more important is we protect our community, we would protect our price action, and we protect our growth. So that's our objective. So yeah, and I don't mean to be aggressive in saying that, but it's probably the most common question, which is when centralized exchange? And it's like, okay, well, at the minute you can buy easily from Radium. You know, creating a Solana wallet takes seconds. And, you know, you can create a Phantom wallet in seconds. You can deposit some Phantom quite easily and you can go and buy. So there's no barrier to people buying our token at the moment. So I think that's an important thing for people to recognize.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if anyone does want to understand more about that, we can maybe cover it in another stream. Because I think the centralized exchange thing is a 2021 legacy, that in 2021, anyone that listed on exchange went to the moon. But people need to remember in 2021, DEXs weren't as big. Phantom wallet, you know, creating a Web3 wallet wasn't as easy. These days, if you want to be big in crypto and you want to trade and you want to do everything, you pretty much have to do it on a DEX. You have to have Web3 wallets. You have to have Phantom, MetaMask, all these different things. Sexies have kind of lost their buying power. And all you have to do is go and look at some recent launches. You know, the data's out there. But we'll cover that in another stream. But yeah, I think people just need to be patient. Let the holder count grow, let the volume grow, and just let the token kind of breathe for a few weeks. And yeah, it'll set us up stronger for longer.
I do want to talk to you offline actually about hype, because I'm like, I don't quite understand the auctioning of your token. I don't quite. So I need to wrap my head around. It's the one thing I've not genuinely found the time to go look at. All I know is Mr. Win all over my timeline going, I know to close long positions when Win puts a, you know, if he puts a huge long on Hyperliquid, I know it's a good time to close it. But I think we're in new economies now. Like you said, I don't think we're dominated by 5 exchanges anymore. You know, I think we are. I think people.
And you saw that. You know, why did if centralized exchanges were the be all and end all that they used to be, Trump would have launched his meme coin on Coinbase or Binance. He wouldn't have went straight to DEX. Do you know what I mean? Like, you see all these big projects. They're all flocking to DEXs because the game's changed. Unfortunately, listing on Binance isn't a golden ticket that it used to be. And I think part of it is the market's changed, part of it's liquidity dynamics, but most of it's just crypto education's improved and crypto onboarding's improved. So you don't need a SEX to actually buy most tokens. In the past, you couldn't buy anywhere else. You know, if you go way back, you could only buy on centralized exchanges. So, yeah.
I am right. So what we're going to do is we're never going to get through 200 odd questions. So apologies for that, everybody. But what I will commit to everybody is that actually we will answer all of those questions and we'll publish it in a blog post next week. So if you genuinely ask the question because you wanted the answer, not because you wanted to win some money, we will answer all of those questions. I think in that, I know we've taken half an hour to cover all of that stuff, but the reason why we covered it in those topics was actually that was a lot of those questions were about roadmap, about sexes, about apps, about why we exist, about what the token is, about the DApp rollout, about what's next. So all of those questions we've kind of ticked off as a bit of a big group one, right? So Mark, you've been taking a look at the questions this morning. Let's just pick off maybe 10 or something like that you like, and let's go through them. And like I said, we will, then we need to pick the winners, but we will for sure write an answer to all of those questions.
Yeah, sure. I think, should we just start with the question about Cliff, about unlocks and what's coming with that? I've kind of summarized the question, but the question is, everyone in this group wants to know about Cliff time. Many people are asking, is there a fixed date for the Zenko release?
Cool, brilliant question. Because actually, I get asked this one a fair bit, and it is written in the blog on the website. It's written in the white paper. There's a whole page on the website that explains it. But in essence, as a part of our build up to launching Zenko, we've done a lot of community building projects, and to do that, we've given away a token for people to be able to earn. Now, of course, we would be absolutely nuts if we gave away a load of tokens that on TGE people could just sell, because we need to build confidence in the broader market in our token. So those tokens were not available to trade on TGE, of course not, because we would have to then effectively be buying them back off the people we'd given away. In which case, back to my earlier point, we should have just given people dollars. But the reason to not do that is because we want these people to have earned or bought, or in some way, however they've acquired them, some tokens, and see that value grow over our first 3 months as we start to roll out our DApp. So it's always about what we can achieve growth in those first 3 months. So we issued a token way before launch, which we call the Zenko token, which is on ApeChain, and that's a 1-for-1 backed token, totally 1-for-1, and it's written into our white paper. So if you look at our tokenomics, you can see community building, Zenko token. That is a vesting token. So what that means is there's a 3-month cliff, and that started on TGE. So the countdown to unlock started on the 3rd. So the clock is already ticking. And what we'll do is I'll actually get an Zenko zone in the website put up, and we'll put a countdown timer. So we'll have a page for that. And then what will happen is it's a linear. Potato. So it's a linear vesting schedule that lasts 6 months. So 3 months, what the 3-month cliff means is it's basically locked for 3 months. And then every day those tokens unlock. And they unlock essentially at a ratio of all of your tokens divided by how many days in that 6 months. So every day tokens unlock. So you can go in every day, unlock it, stake it, unlock it, sell it. Or you can wait every couple of weeks and do it. That's the reason for that is it evens that out to give everybody an opportunity. And it means that there's not a sudden big unlock on one day and the price drops 50%. You know what I mean? Everybody's like, oh, what happened, right? Because we've seen so many projects do that. So we want to provide consistent growth. And of course, we're really going to step up marketing as these unlocks start to happen. So people are like, why would I sell? We're going to $1, right? Because that is genuinely where I believe we will be at. And those 1,000, or, some people have got 1 million, those million Zenko tokens they've got sat there, they're going to be very, very happy as they start to unlock and they can sell. So it also helps us a bit, because if you're sat on these tokens, you should be helping us spread the word, because it's your personal interest that our token is flying by the time the vesting starts to happen. So it's a part of bringing people into the community, but then their reward is how well we've done post TGE. So it was very specifically done by design, and it was all documented in advance, and there's all on the website. So hopefully that clears it up. There's a 3-month lock that countdown timer started last Tuesday. And after that 3 months, there'll be daily linear vesting of those tokens that are yours. You can do what you like. The only thing I would say, if you go onto the website, and I'll reshare this when we send out these notes, if you are sat on these tokens thinking, can I earn any more while they're locked? Yes, you can. So you can go and stake these tokens for 3 months while they're doing nothing in your wallet. If you want, you can stake them for longer too. So we'll share the link for the staking. So even though you can't trade your Zenko tokens, you can sell them to somebody if you like, because they're yours. So if you can find a market for it, go sell them to somebody, right? If you want to. But if you want to stake them to earn, you can come stake. So I think that's a really good question, because clearly people are asking questions. Clearly we haven't communicated it enough. So it's very important that people are very aware of what that is. And what I hope is that people understand why we've done it and support us in growing the market to a size. You know, my dream is that we're T1 listing the minute these unlocks start happening. And that really gives people an amazing market, you know, to move into. But absolutely great question. So whoever asked that, Tanmoy, I think, wasn't it, on Telegram? Thank you very much for the question. And I apologize, and we will communicate these things a lot better.
Yeah, we have another question that I was just going to touch on. It says, how can we make newcomers better educated, and how can we teach people about Zenko? And it goes back to kind of what you were saying, is we've got a lot of different campaigns going on. You'll probably see a lot more of Jason and probably me giving you updates more weekly. But also we've got some educational competitions going on, people writing threads on Zenko, because actually Zenko's got so much to it that there's loads of different parts we can educate them on. So yeah, you'll see a lot more of that. So good question. But the biggest thing for me is the community. If you're a member of the community, you should be spreading the word of Zenko, because the upside is kind of uncapped for where the Zenko token can go. The more education and the word you spread about what we're trying to achieve, then that will manifest itself into more people joining the community.
I love it. And I think there's two things. So sometimes, you know, we are, say this, I don't want to keep repeating it, but I think it's important, because a lot of our business is actually outward facing to brands, to customers. So if you take my average week, I'm probably 80% dealing with brands, football clubs, partnerships in that space. And then we're like, okay, how do we translate this into the crypto community? Because we are not 100% just a crypto project trying to recycle the community, sometimes that, you know, plays a little bit second fiddle. So Mark had this brilliant idea earlier saying, look, we're doing this live stream now on a Friday afternoon. So what we'll commit to do is we'll do a live stream update every Friday afternoon. So every Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. Europe. You can figure out what time that is in your time zone. We will do a live stream update. Every week, it might just be me, or it might be Mark, or it might be we'll bring in somebody else's team, and we'll literally give you an update on what's happening that week. And then once a month, we'll do a full-on AMA, and we'll get some questions in. So if we see repeated questions coming up into Telegram, we'll answer that in that week's AMA. The other thing I'm toying with, is, like we've done with our Causeonauts Moon to the Mission, we're introducing people to our application, Move to Earn. Now, nobody that's watching this probably will ever go through one of our Learn to Earn campaigns, because they're brands like Lenovo, Hewlett-Packard, IBM, Juniper Networks. We're just talking to Cisco. I've got a meeting with Microsoft Windows 11 next week, right? If you're not an IT buyer or a CIO in one of their target organizations, you're never going to be part of that. But something I just thought about, Mark, was why don't we take a version, once Causeonauts in market, why don't we take our Learn to Earn application and point it to the crypto market and actually say, come learn about Zenko, but also learn about blockchain, learn about ApeChain, learn about our partners, and earn tokens, because that's already built. That literally is sat there. So it's effectively a learning portal with a Zenko rewards built in. Why don't we just make a version for Web3? And then we can say to people, because we don't just want to educate people for 3 months, right? There's a huge growth market in this space. So we could maybe author some content on what is blockchain, how is it used, what is Zenko, are our partners, and actually use an application we've built for our customers but give people an experience in Web3. That might be another approach to rewarding people to learn about Zenko and our partners. I've only just thought about that, but I don't see any barriers in doing that, only a bit of time.
Yeah, definitely. I think crypto education is going to go through the roof in the next couple of years, because ultimately, as much as people watching this think that everybody knows about crypto, very few people know about crypto. Think about your friend group, your family. None of them will hold crypto, I would imagine. So yeah, big space. So yeah, we could definitely do something like that.
Oh yeah, I think that might be a good idea, make it rewarding. I like that. Yeah. So there's two good questions. I like those two.
So the third one kind of changes tact a little bit. So the question is, Zenko is building an economy for good. How does it avoid the same pitfalls we've seen with ESG and other charity initiatives with greenwashing and funds not ending up where they should?
I think no, and that was our single biggest concern, to be honest, which was there's a big gap in the middle, right? So we looked at competitors that were like, attend a meeting and we plant a tree, for example, and it's like, but actually, what does that mean? Like, when did that happen? Where did that go? Where's the validation? And for me, it's the blockchain actually is the piece that totally fixes this. And we're just utilizing the blockchain in a tracking way, right? Blockchain is an open ledger in effect. So if you imagine the brand has a wallet, the users have wallets, the causes have wallets, and the cause is very much the last yard, if that makes sense. It's not a big bucketed charity that money goes into a big black hole and we're trying to figure out where it went. It's actually so the company that's the non-profit that's providing meals to the children actually collects the food, prepares the food, delivers it to the child, if that makes sense. So they have a validation process that meal has been delivered. So the blockchain tracks the transaction all the way through, and then we use a digital receipt of completion to then track it back. So the users get a digital receipt of completion in the form of an NFT, and then the brand gets a campaign completion certificate, and it's all validated back through down to the cause. So like the money flows one way, the proof flows back the other. But you can see it totally. I mean, literally, I was on having a meeting with a brilliant cause yesterday. And this is going to be one that's going to accelerate us really quickly. And actually, I think it's one that you're going to like, Mark. So this is a grassroots movement in football to promote mental health. And they are rolling out with every single football club through their supporters clubs. It's totally for free. So what we're going to do is we're going to embed Zenko in as a way for people to actually mobilize themselves to earn a token to then go towards supporting the mental health charity in that area. So the cause, right? So that's a real one that people can be totally passionate about. So, but this was exactly what we were talking about yesterday, is how does that money flow, right? But the key thing to them was they know they can see what money's coming in. They haven't got to wait for the end of the month, because actually it's live in their wallet. So as somebody spends a token, it literally comes straight into their wallet. And we're providing them with a last yard service where we help them turn that digital money into pounds in their account. We don't know how long we're going to need to do that for. Hopefully by this time next year, all of the banks will allow people to open a crypto account like GBP account or like a Euro account. I think that's where we're going. But the ability also for the cause to see that money coming, and nobody can fudge them either, if you know what I mean. It's like they literally they can track it back to source, if you know what I mean. So the nature of having an open ledger absolutely helps everybody. It helps the brand map and see where their tokens have gone. It helps the user see where they've earned it from and where it goes. And it helps the cause see, actually, we can see where that money's flowing. And there's no way that could, so greenwashing can't exist in that, because greenwashing essentially is selling something twice. I've planted a tree and I've sold the planting of that tree twice, or I've taken the money and not really done anything with it. And I wish that charities would adopt this type of technology. I hope they do in the future for transparency. that's their business. But I think this is a differentiator in giving, and that's why. And we don't talk about it because it's, it's probably 2 years away in terms of the roadmap. But when we turn Zenko into a consumer platform for giving, that's when the real volume starts to happen. But we've got to build our base from really kind of like B2B brand stuff. But I think the market is ripe. I think just the giving market is ripe for people to actually just donate money to local causes where they get proof of execution and they can see the good and they know exactly where it's going. And if I'm sat in Leeds, it goes to Leeds. If I'm sat in London, it goes into my borough in London. It's not some abstract, oh, I donated to a child charity, but the money could have gone anywhere, right? We had this thing with the RNLI that was spending money on like DEI stuff and things, and it just stopped people giving them money because they're like, well, hang on, if we can't see, the British Royal Legion, sorry, it was around selling the poppies, but well, rightly or wrongly, the charity decides where it spends their money, but that lack of transparency was causing issues in donations. So I actually think the market's ripe for changing. So totally love that question. That's why the blockchain exists. And that's why we're so confident in using it, because it just takes away those problems. And it's problems that have plagued other people in the past.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one thing that's came out of probably the post-pandemic years is people want to look after their local kind of surrounding area more, and they're more conscious of donating to big charities and then never really seen the impact of those funds. Whereas if you donate to a local food bank or whatever, you instantly see the impact of your funds. And I think that's what Zenko's empowering, but on a much bigger scale. But also the biggest benefit is that it's global. So anyone anywhere in the world can interact with Zenko, and they can buy the token and they can be part of it without necessarily having to say, I want somebody in Scotland to go and plant a tree. They can still be part of the ecosystem without necessarily being there. So I think it covers both grounds. Yeah, if only we had something like that for our tax system, that would be good to see where our tax money goes. That can be your next project.
Oh yeah, it'll come, and I think whoever comes up with that idea will win the election. If somebody says, here it is, I genuinely think, and allow people to vote. Imagine your money, because it's not the government's money. I love how our government thinks it's their money. We're spending this and we're spending that. It's like, no, you don't have any money. We pay you to look after our money. That's what we do, right? I think the smart politician that comes up with how to do that, I think they win the election. And imagine doing it like a DAO where people voted. But like, well, God knows. To be honest, that's probably a stupid idea, because getting everybody voting, God knows what they'd do, right? You look at what some of these like charitable ships got named, and Boatface or whatever, right? Maybe you can't trust people to vote for things. But I think doing it, open book, and just, hopefully we've got to get there, haven't we? Right. So that's 3 questions. We need 2 more, Mark. Come on. So we need 5. And then we're going to do 2 more, and then we're going to pick our favorite, because $50 is going to 4 and $150 is going to our favorite. So let's answer 2 more, and then we'll come back and we'll pick our favorite. Just conscious of trying to keep this within an hour.
So the next one is how you decide on the causes or the charities that you're going to impact with the funds. So
we've actually done it based on significant market research, which actually we will publish, because we're getting it in a shape to be able to publish it. But we also take guidance from essentially who is the customer, which is the brands, basically. So the important thing is that we cover all of the sustainability goals, sustainability development goals, of which is 17. So we can now, if somebody wants to support a cause based on an SDG, we cover all of them. And then we've got some very tactical ones. Our aim this year is to get to 100 causes, but we're going to need causes to kind of self-register and put their hand up and say, look, I'd like to join, if that makes sense. So the journey so far has been very much based on demand. So prime example, a big football club wants to do a promotion, wants to do a good promotion, but wants it to be done in their city. So what do they care about? What do you care about? Well, we care about children not being fed, because there's 33% of the kids are in food poverty in our city. Okay, that's now filling a need. So sell a shirt, sorry, buy a shirt, buy a ticket, generate a meal for a child in your city. So now we need to add children in food poverty. So children in food poverty wasn't one that we started with. It was one that we've added based on demand. And you can understand it. A football club being part of the community, talking to them about abstract topics like carbon credits and biodiversity. And it's like, well, where does all this happen? And I know we're an enclosed globe, or we're an enclosed dome on a flat plane, whichever side of that fence you sit on, you know, we're all part of the same ecosystem. But still, when you drive to work and you see homeless out your window and you hear about kids being fed McDonald's constantly, and the only school meal they get is a free school meal, but half of the kids have had the free school meal taken off them, that's a very local issue. That's not a global one. So it's very much at the moment based on demand. A big part of our Causeonauts campaign is to actually get the partners to add their causes and what they care about. So football clubs are adding their foundations, for example, right? Because, you know, if you're a fan of a football club, you may want to do something for the foundation because you know they do great work in your community. So yeah, it's very user driven, but for us, there's no limit. And I hope that if anybody catches the wind of what we're doing or watches this stream that has a favorite cause, of course, they'll encourage them to come and reach out and get signed up. There is no cost to taking part, and we are a way for them to generate revenue. So, you know, we're bringing money to the causes rather than the other way around. So it's, yeah, it's just time and effort to get around them. And unfortunately, there's so many causes that need help. So we're never going to run out of a new cause to support.
Great.
Like that one. That's 4.
And I have...
We'll limit you to 1 more.
The last question is a bit more open, but why ApeChain? What advantages does ApeChain bring? Just talk to us about the ApeChain partnership, I think. Yeah,
okay. And this is... I feel like you've primed me for this one, because this leads me on actually quite nicely to my final point on Web4, which is we had a list of, we did our pilots on Polygon. We had a list of blockchains. We spoke to probably 8 in quite detail. We had quite a lot of leverage because we've got big brands, real product, easily deployable. ApeChain was very important for us because our applications in the immediate term are very, what you'd class as Web 2-y. So Move to Earn essentially is a website and a phone app. And by the way, if you already use Strava or Fitbit, you can just connect that in, right? But that's very Web 2-y. Learn to Earn is come to the website, watch a video, attend a webinar, download a PDF. We are at the heart of the engagement economy. So it's decentralized engagement rewards, right? So we call it DeENGAGE. A lot of people don't realize what Yuga are building is something called the other side, which goes into permanent state, I think later in July, maybe August. You need to check their website for it. But in essence, the other side is an open building world that doesn't have the limitation of Sandbox and Decentraland, that enables us to create applications, experiences inside an augmented or a virtual environment, which is in the future where people are going to hang out. You know, so imagine a football club saying, come to the stadium or come to our digital twin stadium. And there you can sit next to your friend who might be in another country. You can actually watch the game. So we're doing testing of a real life match using 20 points of data, 60 frames per second, replayed in the metaverse. It is incredible. The consumption or the engagement with brands, and I'm going to tell you why this is mega important as my last thing in a minute, right? This is so important because we've got to see the future. We've got to figure out what the future is, right? Not just what the past is. You know, past is great for lessons, but it's not going to teach us anything about the future. So we, right? ApeChain, I think, have got the best chance because they've got the best application, they've got the best SDK, they've got a consumer portfolio, and they're launching their other side, which is this persistent state metaverse that we can go build in for no money, no cost of streaming to fans, which is really important. And in the future, That's where people will hang out. My view of this whole thing changed when I realized that my kids wanted to go into Roblox not to play a game. It's to hang out with their friends. It's a social network. They don't want to be on Twitter and Facebook. They want to be where they're interacting with their friends. And they're not getting, you know, I don't sound like I'm really old, but my mum used to kick me out and say, when the street lights come on, come home. That basically was my childhood. You know, don't get hurt. Don't get in the car with nobody you don't know, and come home when the street lights comes on. That literally was my whole childhood. God, I mean, I couldn't imagine doing that today. I'm like, do I need to put an air tag in my kids' shoes or whatever, right? When they're walking to school, you know. But the world of engagement is dramatically changing. And what's also going to happen in parallel with this, if you think about this from a brand point of view, all of the typical ways that these brands currently interact. Okay, so Mark, if I want to sell you something, Mark, let's say I'm HP and I want to sell you a new laptop, right? I'll profile Mark. Where does he hang out? Oh, he might be on LinkedIn, or he might read these websites, or he might be on Twitter, right? So I've got my profile of you. I'm now going to serve you content, and I'm going to try and have an email address. It's not going to be very long that all of that space actually is dominated by AI, and it's not a real human. Mark does not go to his favorite websites in the morning. He does not log on to LinkedIn. He does not log on to Twitter. You ask your AI agent, oh, what's going on in the world of Celtic Football Club today? What news? What's happening? But look across all my sources. You will not be browsing through Twitter. You'll be seeking information through Twitter from your chatbot. Same as websites. You'll say, oh, I want to book a hotel. Have a look at booking.com, Expedia, etc., and have a look if they've got any offers on a minimum 4-star in Barcelona on this date, collect their prices and find out for me. You will not go to those websites. So where those websites are selling web banners to human beings, they're genuinely not going to be seen by human beings. This will catch so many people offside. So when we started Zenko, we were thinking about the problem we were fixing then, which was about time and attention and cost to get that time and attention. What we've got to be thinking about in the future actually is about proof of humanity. It's going to be about belonging, and it's going to be about connections. And that's why these applications are really important. Brands getting fans moving. They're human beings. An app on their phone. I'm not serving you ads in a channel where you are. I'm delivering an experience to you, if that makes sense. So this explosion of Web 4, which is going to be about belonging. Where do you belong? That's going to be the next big wave. We are so early. Hardly anybody is talking about it. Like almost nobody's talking about it. Apart from I spoke to this really inspiring VC, and I'll see if I can pop this up on the video. And they're building this Web 4 community. It's a bit like a cross between Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, where it's almost like a club, but it's all humans. And you make affirmations, they don't call them affirmations, but it's like, but you talk to people based on their spirit and their soul and their goal, not their job and the websites they're on. And their team sent me this yesterday, which was, we're building a Zenko companion that our members will be able to earn a Zenko companion that will go off in the world and do good deeds on their part. So they'll earn XP in their world, but then they'll be able to give that XP to their companion and say, go plant some trees for me. And they'll go off, convert that XP into Zenko tokens and go plant trees. So this is a very, very long way to explain why Yuga, okay? So we need to be thinking about the future of engagement for our customers and for our fans. And it will not be on Twitter, on Google websites. So we don't know if other side's going to win. We don't. What we know is it's bloody good. We've met the dev team. Our brand customers are super excited about building immersive experiences in there because they know that that's where it's going. And if it's not other side, we'll pick up our tech and we'll go somewhere else. But that kind of was the reason, was not just about a low-cost chain. You know, ApeChain's built on Arbitrum. It's fully Stargate compatible. Bridging super cheap. You know, super fast. You know, it's a really usable chain. But the long term, we've got to be thinking about where do we engage people in the future and you know, give them an experience. And if we can connect the brand, with an experience, with a cause. That's kind of the 3 legs of this magic stool for the future. And that's about proof of humanity. So yeah, very long answer to that question, but hopefully that's kind of explained why. I'm a bit down a rabbit hole on Web 4. So I'd encourage anybody to go and also think about this, but I swear everything's going to be dominated by AI chatbots in the future. And the funnel will be your AI agent. It won't be websites, social media, search engines. Nobody's going to search anything on Google anymore. It'll be the AI searching it. So actually having adverts and boosted content around those searches, it's going to be an absolute waste of money. So you can guess what I'm talking about with customers now, right? So this is now the journey that we started on. So yeah, it's super exciting. And I know we've totally gone over the time that we thought, Mark, but this kind of happens because it's about good and it's about Web3. We start talking about it and we keep going on. So I think if we can wrap the 5 questions there, let's say they're all our winners.
Yeah.
So it's about picking the best one. Now, I don't think that last one was the best one because I think I made it a good question with my monologuing. But I think it's a relatively simple question. But what do you think about picking a winner?
I think I quite like the question about
the greenwashing.
Yeah.
I like that, but
yeah, because I think that's what that is ultimately the use. Like that is the use case, and I think it's slightly thinking out the box, and it's actually thinking about real good, and actually not just saying you're doing good, but actually making sure you are doing good.
Yeah,
which
I think it took right to the heart of the problem. So let's say, so that was Cap Cosmos. So congratulations, Cap Cosmos. Please drop your wallet on this tweet, this X post, and we'll get you the $150 out to your wallet. And then the other 4, we're going to send out $50 in USDT. So that was Tanmoy1769 was about the cliff question. We had the very nicely named Zenko Army 1717 with the community one. I managed to get those. What were the other 2 people, Mark? They use their Twitter handles.
So the next question was asked by Batu TG. So if you drop your wallet, you earned $50. And our last but not least question around ApeChain was Soda the God. So if you could drop your wallet, also $50.
Amazing. Well, we did run over time, but I'm not going to apologize for that. People can come back and fast forward or rewatch it. Hopefully that's covered most people's questions. But like I said, we will sit early next week. We'll trawl through it and we'll make sure we answer them all and we'll publish it. And like I said, let's love Mark's idea. Let's make this the start of a regular slot. So we will be back next Friday, 3 p.m. UK, and we'll give an update on what's happened in a week in the life of Zenko. So let's keep an eye on the charts. Let's keep praying to the decentralized exchange gods that trading falls in our favor. And we look forward to catching you in Telegram and socials. And, thank you everybody for your support. It's been a great launch. Like I said, it's been very stealthy. Now's the time to start kicking on with the marketing. We've got some great campaigns coming up and build up for our Move to Earn launch. So have a great end of your Friday. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. And we'll catch you in socials.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.